Before the next episode of X-Job Downloaded starts, I have a big favour to ask. If you've enjoyed any of our episodes so far, please can you click on the follow button on your platform. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon and YouTube. It costs nothing to follow, but makes a real difference to me as a podcast producer. Thank you. This interview is being tape recorded. My name is Paul Maleary and this is X-Job Downloaded. And today I'm going to interview Jamal Barak. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Jamal served with the British forces in Afghanistan and came to the United Kingdom and he worked hard for the British forces and he's got a hell of a story to tell. So, Jamal, where did it all begin for you?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I was quite young. As soon as I turned to 17, I joined the British Armed Forces in Afghanistan in 2008. We were based in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. And then my job was basically doing the translation on the front line. With the British Armed Forces and doing a joint operations on the ground, and then until the British Army left Afghanistan.
So how long had the conflict been taking place before you actually joined the army?
Well, the worst moment, the worst year was that in Afghanistan that the British and basically NATO and the Afghan forces, they have lost quite a lot of people. It was from 2006 till 2014. This was the worst years.
Okay, and so how old were you when it all began over there? When the Taliban...
as I said, I was very young. I was very young when I first joined, and I thought like I'm doing the right thing, basically, and I'm proud what I did for the British government and for the Afghanistan. I'm proud. I think I did something really, really well.
When you were a kid growing up, what was that like growing up under the Taliban?
Well, I haven't grew up in Afghanistan. Basically, we were refugees in Pakistan until 2006. So when we came to Afghanistan in 2006, I was so young that time. So I used to go to the school and I used to saw the British patrolling in our villages. And basically, we were living close to the military base of the British Army. And I thought, like, I need to learn English. I need to be with the British Army one day, and which I did.
So what was that like? You know, the Taliban, it's now well recognised that Taliban have taken control again of Afghanistan. But your family originally from Afghanistan, they went to Pakistan. Where were you born?
I was born in Afghanistan, so I was actually 2 years old when my father left Afghanistan. Went to Pakistan, seek refugee there. We were there until 2006. And then when the new government came, President Karzai, basically we returned back to our own country.
And what was the motivation for your father to take you as a family to Pakistan? Was it purely because of the Taliban?
Yes, yeah, of course. As far as I remember, and my father said that because the Mujahideen came to Afghanistan and they were killing people, violence and all that. So there was no chance for us to leave in Afghanistan. So we left the country and we were out of the country for years and years until 2006. So
you come back into Afghanistan and you decide that you want to be an interpreter. Were you already speaking English at that time?
No, I couldn't speak perfect English at that time. I was such a kid that time, and I used to saw the troops that they are patrolling in the village and the front line, and I had the interest that I need to learn English. I could, but not as much as I can now. But yeah, and then I finally managed. I mean, I remember when I first joined, we went to a place called Musakala, one of the dangerous places in Afghanistan. We were there I was working there with 5 Scots for a couple of months, and then we returned back to Camp Bastian, and from Camp Bastian we went to Nadali, which I was working with 1 Scot at the time. So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed my work with the British government.
But what was that like as an Afghani boy that they fled the country because of the troubles? What was that like going back to work within your community? How were you received by the Afghani people?
Well, it was not an easy job. I was criticized many times by different names. I mean, standing shoulder with the Westerns, even if they're not your cultures, even if they're not a similar religion and all that. I mean, standing as such a young boy against your own people, and working for the peace and the stability of Afghanistan, supporting the NATO. It was not an easy job. It was very risky, and that's why our families made massive sacrifices in Afghanistan. I lost my older brother, and they shot my other brother 14 times. They shot me 2 times. They killed my uncles. So yeah, we managed, and basically it was not just myself working for the British Army. It was my 3 of my uncles working in the same military base. My father was a gardener for the British Army in the military base. It was my other brother was an interpreter who's been shot 14 times. Yeah, I've been managed to get him out of Afghanistan last year. So most of my family were involved with this mission.
So what was your actual job? Talk me through what you did on a day-to-day basis with the British Army.
Yeah, well, at the beginning, when we were on the front line, basically we used to go at the middle of the night, taking raids, and somewhere where we used to see that the Taliban having activities, basically where the Taliban were hiding, where the Taliban used to live. So we used to go there. Basically, if we could have arrested the Taliban, we used to bring them to Camp Bastian and detain them there. And also we were mentoring the Afghan forces, training them, recruiting the Afghan forces. So I did that for a few years. And then after, when I got shot in 2010, then I was transferred back to Lashkar, where the capital of Helmand is.
Yeah.
Then I was moved to the PPHQ, and I was working with the most senior British officers, and we were mentoring the intelligence, the counter-terrorism, and the police and rest of the departments until we left Afghanistan.
So you'd go out on a raid with the troops, and you would you would interpret between the people that are being detained and the troops, or the local residents of whatever village you were going to. How did that work?
Well, it was different sort of circumstances. I mean, if we were out on the front line, we used to see the civilians. We used to see the Taliban. They were dressed pretty much civilians. It was very difficult to recognize them. So yeah, and we were trying to build a very good relationship with the civilians, so they can help us in because the Taliban used to place the IEDs. So we were trying to have a good relationships with the locals, and also we used to go to the Afghan military bases and to support them with the ammunition, the weapons, food, with the money and everything. So this was our job on the front line. And then I also worked in the prison. Where we used to have the Taliban in Camp Bastian. It was one of the secret place, and so my job was inside, and basically we had such a senior Taliban fighters were detained with us.
And you'd assist in their interviews, or how?
Yeah, interviews, translations, taking them to Bagram Airport. They used to have lawyers in the UK because they were such senior and very risky people for the in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
So they were basically detained with us.
I mean, that's interesting. So you're finishing your duty at the end of the day, and you're going back into where? Where were you living at that time?
Oh yeah, my house was just about 2 miles away from the British military base in Lashkar. So end of the day, when my job was finished, I used to travel back to my home, and I came 2 times under the attack when I was traveling to home. Basically, the Taliban, they followed me, and they start firing, but I was so lucky. I ran away. I was driving the car. The bullets came, hit my car, and then I remember it was an evening time when I left the army camp, and I was traveling home. When I came under the attack, 2 people were covered, and they had AK-47s. When they tried to kill me, but I ran away. But it was good that I immediately informed the police officers in that same area, and I called the British soldiers over there as well. It was good. And then I was given AK-47 the same night for my protection. So it was a very risky job.
So you were armed?
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
armed on duty as well as off duty.
I used to bring my pistols to the main gate when I was leaving, so I have to take it back with myself. Yes, I was armed by the Afghan government because for my safety.
And who were you actually working for? Because that's an interesting point. Were you working for the Afghan government or for the British Army?
No, for the British Army. No, I was working for the British Army, but the reason I was armed because I was working with the most senior British the intelligence and the police mentoring advisory groups. So our connection was with the senior Afghan staff as well. So that's why they will look after me.
Were you ever present when the British troops came under attack?
You mean in Camp Bastian?
Yeah, in back when you went out on patrol, and did you ever come under fire whilst you were with the British troops?
Oh yeah, multiple times, more than 100 times. Yeah. I mean, in 2010, we flown from Camp Bastian in the middle of the night, 2:00. We went to Nadali when it was the most dangerous place. There was no Afghan forces. There were no British or Americans. We went in the middle of the Taliban, and basically we took the net. We basically paid money to the local nationals, and they left the house. They made the house, the compound empty for us, and then basically they left. We were there for about a week. And our job was there to 24 hours. We used to have the Chinook and the helicopters flying on top in the sky for protection, because we were under imminent risk. Even during night time, we could not take our body armors because the bullets, the rockets were coming inside the house.
And were you over there when any British servicemen were killed or wounded?
Yeah. So I saw many British soldiers when we used to go out for patrolling. Basically, I was the third person because we were dressed as well as a British soldier.
Yes.
They stick on IDs, blow up, lost their legs and hands.
That's awful. But what was the reaction of the British soldiers to you as an Afghan national? How were you treated by them?
Well, in Afghanistan, basically, there was no difference between me and as a British soldier. We both had the same uniform, and we both went to the front line for the same target. And our enemy was the same. They treated us same as their own soldier. There was no
good.
There was no difference, and we felt that we are getting treated in the same way as British soldiers in Afghanistan. But when we came to the UK, we saw a bit of changes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to that. But how many Jamals are there? How many people were interpreting? How many Afghanis were working for the United Nations or for the NATO troops, I should say?
I mean, in 2000, between 2008 and 2012, we almost had 30,000 British troops that were located in Helmand province. So that was the busiest years. And as far as I know, it was around 3,000 Afghan interpreters were working directly for the British government.
And what's happened to those 3,000 people, Jamal? I mean, how many of them have made their way to the UK?
A very, very small amount of numbers people came to the UK, and some of them they lost their lives, and I know them. I've been connected. They called me. I mean, recently, last week, a friend of mine who was working with me in Afghanistan, he was killed on his second day of duty when ID blew up. He was a very young man. He was 18. So his father called me and he said to me, "Is there any chance you can make a safe way for us to come to the UK?" Because he said that we are getting treated by the Taliban because of my son's death for the British Army. So he said, "I have no idea. What should we do?" Loads of our friends got killed, and some of them were, like, for example, terminated, lost their jobs, dismissed. Unfortunately, they all left behind in Afghanistan. So they only been managed to get a very small number of people to the UK.
And what are the conditions like now in Afghanistan since the withdrawal of the troops?
It's a worse situation right now in Afghanistan. I mean, these who worked for the British government, the Taliban, have full information about these people. They cannot work with the Taliban. They cannot work anywhere, any department or any office, because there's no inclusive government. I can tell you a good example. My uncles, they worked from 2006 till 2014. They worked more than me, right? They were chef for the British Army. They leaving in a worse condition at the moment. Me and my father, my brothers here, we collected the money and sending them, feed them, because they cannot work. And the Taliban are not giving them a job as well. Every time their house is under attack, under the search and everything. Our property, we had a house in Lashkar where we built. It's all gone. Like friends of mine, they're always telling that commander of the Taliban that lives in our property, that's it, gone. Everything's gone.
That's terrible. And because they've changed the rules around women out there and all the good work that was done and all the hundreds of people that lost their lives, Afghani, British, American, they lost their lives and everything's been given up. And so how did you get out of Afghanistan?
Thank you. Yeah, just regarding what we said now, I mean, it is very, very frustrating. 20 years, the British and Americans and Afghan government, they worked together. They made a very big progress, and they achieved quite a lot of things. Afghanistan went from zero up to this part.
Yeah.
But millions of Afghans got killed. 457 British soldiers got killed. Nearly 27 to 30 billion pounds gone west in Afghanistan. The tanks, the aircraft, everything is gone. Everything has been handed over in a peace way to the Taliban, and they have the control now. And it is. I'm telling you now. I always made it clear. It is a massive threat for the Western countries. The Taliban, they're occupied very strongly, and I'm sure defeating the Taliban now is not an easy job. They're very, very strong, and I think this is very risky. And so yeah, coming to your question, so end of 2014, when our last troops left Afghanistan, it was Camp Bastian, because we were pulling out and making the transitions from the districts to Camp Bastian. So and then I was offered to come to the UK. That was basically the end of 2014, and then in April 2015. So I was brought to Coventry. So since that, the last 8 years, I've been living in the UK.
Did you come out on a military transporter?
No. So what happened is, as soon as we were told that you're eligible for relocations to the UK, then we came to Kabul, and then it was a commercial flight, and we came to Dubai, from Dubai to here. So it was not a military flight; it was just a commercial flight.
So talk me through. You've been shot twice. Talk me through those incidents.
So yeah, it was. So we went somewhere, and basically, it was the middle of the night, and as soon as we entered to the compound, we came under the attack, and some of our other troops, they went to in a different village. It's called Shinkalai. It was a very dangerous place. So we came under the attack. We tried to manage. Our plan was to get out, talk to the local nationals, and basically see what they're asking for, what sort of help we can give them. This was our plan, but unfortunately we could not open our door to get out. So basically we were on the top of the roofs and fighting with the Taliban, and my job was there to do the translation through the ICOM radio, what the Taliban saying, and how many casualties they've given, how many people got killed, and what they're saying, what sort of plans they have. So this was my job. I was doing the translation.
Wow.
So the Taliban didn't know that we have basically got access to their ICOM radios, and then so we were there until mid of the night, and then our other friends and colleagues that were based in Shinkalai, they came under the heavy attack, and they finally managed to get themselves out. Came in the middle of the night. They could not come in the tanks or through the air. Basically, they left in the middle of the night, and they came back 2 to 3 hours before, and managed to get our property to our compound. It was just about four bedroom house, and we were there about 150 soldiers in 3-bedroom house.
Wow. And what regiment were you with then?
Sorry?
What regiment were you with?
That was one Scott Guards.
So and you got shot. Where were you shot?
So and then the next day, so we were quite a lot. So we planned we need to get out this compound, and we need to go around the village and see what's going on. So as soon as we opened the door, the guy, I think as far as I remember, his name was Sergeant Smart. As soon as he stepped outside, he's got shot in the leg by this sniper. So we came back again here, and then after a few minutes, we tried to get out again. We went around the compounds. Some of those went to the left and right. So we came under the ambush attack. So we were fighting from 9 until 4 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And I used to saw they were dropping the bombs and everything on the top of the Talibans. I used to saw the Talibans in my face, like covering their faces, and got AK-47 and machine guns and everything. So at 4 o'clock, I remember I got really tired and there was no water, nothing. So I just sit, and as soon as I sit down, they fired. So rest of the bullets came, sorry, to my chest, where they're protected by the body armor, but the other one came on my where the breast is. Came here and went and I met off the back, and the other one went in my right arm and went to this side. And then I was there for another 3 hours because they could not pick me up to take me to the compound. So I was 3 hours on the floor, bleeding heavy. And after that, I don't know what happened because I went down, lost too much bloods. And then after 3 days, after 3 days, I realized I was in the hospital when I opened my eyes.
Wow. How lucky are you?
Yeah. Very lucky.
So you've been evacuated back to the hospital. The Scots Guards have got you into the hospital, and you're seen by the best medical practitioners in the world. I mean, if they can save people's lives, they will, and they've been successful many times, I'm pleased to say. But what was that like, being in a military hospital?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing was like very bad moment that I was inside the compound, and I was feeling like really, really hot, and I was bleeding very heavy. And I asked them, say, like, how long are we going to stay in this floor? I mean, when are you going to take me to Camp Bastian? They said the problem is that we've got the Shunak helicopter, and it's very difficult to land to pick you up because the Taliban is going to shoot it. So they said, for security, we need to have 3 to 4 patrolling around and there, so we can pick you up. And then, after a few hours, they managed to get me out of the compound, and then took me to Camp Bastian. Camp Bastian was very, very big hospital, and we used to have high qualified doctors and everything. And they treated me really well. And then I was there for about 2 months in the in Camp Bastian so I can walk properly. And then I came back to Lashkar, and then I started working back again. And then but I used to go again to the front line, but not as much as I was before. Most of the times I was inside the PPHQ.
So you're now in the UK, and you've been through some horrendous times out in Afghanistan. You fought alongside the British soldiers. You've done your part for the Queen and country as it was then. Tell me what your experience has been like since you've arrived in the UK.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very, very hard when I first came to the UK. As the first thing is clothes and basically color of my skin, and it was just myself, and I was so young as well. It was just myself, nobody else. It was difficult at the beginning, for the first few years, and then it took me a while to settle down. But yeah, I mean, the main thing was that I was safe. That was very important for me. Rather than being in Afghanistan, being killed by the Taliban, I think I was more happy here. And then in 2021, when the Taliban took the country, then I was more concerned for my family. And then I had to fight with the MOD to get on my dad, because they said, "Oh, your father cannot come to the UK because he was not interpreted." And I said, "It does not matter, because he was a gardener. He was working for you. You were paying them, and they were working inside a military base. So there's absolutely no distinction for the Taliban if you were a chef, interpreter, and they will all, everybody's the same for the Taliban." But yeah, I mean, thanks God, so many British military officers, they helped me, and then they managed to get my mum and dad to Pakistan, and then they came from Pakistan to the UK.
Oh, so your parents are here now?
Yeah. They went to Kabul on the 23rd of August, but they could not manage to get out of the country because that was the last flight, and then they were left hopeless. And then after 10 days, they managed to get out illegally to Pakistan, and then went to the British embassy, and then they've been managed to get them out.
I mean, that must have been quite scary in itself, the fact that they've been left there, they're watching the last plane take off, people literally clinging to the aircraft to try and go with it. Yeah, that must have been absolutely horrendous. And scary for you as well, because you don't know what their fate looks like, because you do know that the Taliban are butchers. At the end of the day, they don't show mercy. They might put a public persona out there that they're not bad, they're not hurting people, but the fact is they really are. And I assume that you could never go back to Afghanistan under a Taliban regime.
Yeah. I mean, I remember on the 23rd of August when I was told by the Ministry of Defense that to tell your father to come to the airport. So I immediately told my father and my 4 young little brothers with my mum to leave the home and get out of Helmand. So they've been managed to come through the road for traveling for about 10 or 11 hours to Kabul, and went to the massive crowd where the thousands of people was there. And then I was told by the British soldiers, they were on the front line and in the airport, so they were telling me to tell your father to go to which door and which gate. So they attempted to go to the right place until the 27th. But they were filled every time because they were stopped by the Taliban and they did not allow to go inside without food and everything, and without sleeping for about 3 to 4 days.
Wow.
They were trapped in the airport. They couldn't do anything, and then in the same moment where there was I'm not too sure if you were that there was a suicide where they killed many civilians and Americans.
Yeah.
My father was in the same place. The good thing is I was received a message by a British soldier through my WhatsApp and say, Jamal, firstly he said to me, where's your dad? And I said, he's in Abbey Gate. And he said, tell him to get out from there because we got information that they were going to be a suicide. So as soon as I called my dad and I said, get out from there, the next minute he messaged me, he said, I hope your dad is okay because we heard the bang. And then I called my father. He said it was just literally about 10 meters away from us.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the devastation that the suicide bombers caused could never be underestimated. It was absolutely horrendous. So you're now in a standoff, I suppose, with the British military in relation to compensation for the injuries that you gained out in Afghanistan. Now, yeah, British soldiers. You talk me through it. You tell me what happens ordinarily.
It is very, very frustrating. As I said, the British government, especially the Ministry of Defense, they're treating us different to their soldiers. I know the soldiers. They were injured with me. They've been paid their compensations. But myself, it's been 4 years. I haven't worked, and I've been under the treatment because the bullet went in my spine that has damaged and broken the 3 ribs. So it's been a long time I haven't worked, and I've been under the treatment. So I received an email yesterday directly from the Ministry of Defense, and it's telling me that we have assessed your case and you don't have a permanent disability. So in that case, we cannot pay you money. If it gets worse, then we are more than happy to assist your case. I mean, forget about getting worse or how I'm feeling now. So how come for the last 4 years or 5 years I've been taking medication? So I'm taking the medication for. That's why I provided the medical evidence.
Yeah.
To see that 2 years ago I was taking this medication. Why I was taking the medication? So that's why I was taking the medication, because for the pain, I've got chronic pain. So they said, no, sorry, you're not eligible.
But British service personnel have been paid out, and you've got some high profile support, haven't you, in the form of Lord Dannatt?
Yeah, he's absolutely a great leader.
Yes, he is.
He had a couple of people like him who could have supported the Afghan interpreters. So yeah, he promised me that he's going to try his best, and I hope he's going to do something for me.
And of course, I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times because he was in charge of the Tower of London, and he's a very, very nice person and works hard for all people involved in conflict who have worked alongside the British Army. So what does the future look like now for Jamal?
Well, I mean, I absolutely don't know what's going to happen. As you know, returning back to Afghanistan, there would be no chance. And it is very clear that Afghanistan has been captured by the Taliban, and it is not easy to. Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no chance, and the future of Afghanistan seems to be darkest. There's no future for the young people, and for those who hope in the future, there's absolutely nothing. And the great thing is that I'm in this country now, and I hope I can spend the rest of my life here, and I'm hoping that as soon as I get my British passport, I'm more than happy to go join again the British Army. This is my biggest hope again.
Well, I wish you every success, young man. I hope that comes to fruition for you. I'm very grateful for your time today, and we have it's probably wasted on you. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but in the olden days, we used to say to people, "Is there anything you'd like to add, alter, or correct in relation to what you've said today?" But I'll give you that opportunity.
Thank you. No, Paul, it was very nice to talk to you today, and I appreciate that we have such a lovely people who still cares about us. Thank you for everything. So I think that was pretty much everything. We talked about it, but I'm ready anytime. Just feel free and let me know whenever you're willing to talk to me. I'm more than happy to talk.
Brilliant. Well, look, can you please keep me updated as to your progress, and hopefully you can get everything resolved. I wish you and your family well, and I'm grateful for your service, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time as well, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you very much. You have a lovely day.
Take care. God bless, mate.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.